Greetings everyone, and welcome to part 6 of my series, Is God Real? In this video, we are going to talk about Daniel 9:24's 70th week, Daniel 9:27's 1-week covenant, and how they relate to Revelation 12:1 and 2's great sign in the heavens, and Matthew 24:30's sign of the Son of Man. This is just my current theory about what is happening. To start off, is this Revelation 12:1 and 2's great sign in the heavens? This sign only happens one time. It has not happened in the past. It does not happen anywhere else in the future. It happens on this one day. Now, if you believe that, is this Matthew 24:30's sign of the Son of Man? These signs are connected. Over here we have Jupiter the king being born. Here we have Jupiter the king on the cross. This is Jesus being born. This is Jesus on the cross. Is this the sign of the Son of Man? Don't forget we have the other two signs talked about as being specific signs in the heavens right in between them. We also have the day counts counting between these two. We also have the 1,000-year count between this sign and this sign when Satan gets released from the pit. Now I could keep going, but I think you get the point. This is the sign of the Son of Man. Let's go compare Matthew 24:30 to Matthew 24:29. Matthew 24:29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. So before the sign of the Son of Man, we have a solar eclipse, a new moon, and a meteor shower. All three of these happen on December 14th of 2020. We have a total eclipse, a new moon, and the Geminids meteor shower. So these three signs fit perfectly with what's written in the Bible. It's what's written in Matthew 24:29 that is throwing us off. Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days. So if this eclipse is the end of the tribulation, then where do we have our problem? I believe it is in the book of Daniel and these two verses, Daniel 9:27 and Daniel 9:24. Daniel chapter 9. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the Prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Now the reason I read this whole section in context is to show that I'm not trying to hide anything or change anything. You can pause this and reread through this to see if what I'm saying is true. Now I also want to mention that just 6 months ago, I thought the 70th week was the same thing as the covenant that is confirmed for 1 week. But let's talk about those two things. God has determined 70 weeks upon thy people. Now we see that 69 of them have already been fulfilled, but there's still 1 week left that he has determined upon thy people. And then we see the Antichrist confirming the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. He confirms this covenant, and then he breaks this covenant, and yet this is supposed to be the 1 week that God has determined for the people? This 1 week covenant does not get fulfilled because he breaks it in the middle. But you expect God to fulfill this 1 week covenant for him? This 70th week for thy people, and this 1 week that the Antichrist confirms with the many, cannot be one and the same. They have to be 2 different weeks. And the reason I believe that is because this is the end of the tribulation, which means Daniel 9:27's 1-week covenant which he breaks has to end by this point. But Daniel 9:24's 70th week will not fit before this point, which means these two have to be different because the 70th week is now going to end after the sign of the Son of Man. Let's look at this from a different perspective. Here's the sign of the Son of Man. Here's your timeline now. Here's the 1,000 years between these two signs. Daniel 9:24's 70th week is ending after the sign of the Son of Man. There is no way to get around this now. Here is the first part of Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. We now have this sign. Here is the second part. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. This is where I believe we are 7 years from today. And the last part of Matthew 24:30. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. We have not gotten 7 years from this yet, because once we hit that point, the 70th week has to start. So we have already passed this point. We have not yet gotten to this point, and we are 7 years from whatever this is. But we do not know what this is. The longest mourning in the Bible is 77 days, but we have already passed that point. This could be a year or 2 years for all we know. Here's Daniel 9:27's 1-week covenant that's broken. And if you think about it, if he breaks this covenant, it really doesn't count to anything, which is why we can have the tribulation ending before Daniel 9:24's 70th week ends. Between the end of the tribulation and the sign of the Son of Man, we have Revelation 16:16's Battle of Armageddon. And then at the end, we have Revelation 23's little season, in which Satan is released from the pit and then thrown into hell. Now let's go back to the sign of the end of the tribulation and see what's going on there. Every day we get 1 day closer to this point is 1 day less that is in the tribulation. That is Matthew 24:22 all over again. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Every day we get 1 day closer to this point is 1 day less in the tribulation. We are living in those shortened days. Now I do want to mention that I still believe that Daniel 9:27 is what starts the tribulation, but I do not believe it's what starts the 70th week. I have not talked about this sign in this series yet, but I am planning on doing so in part 7. But I wanted to show you what I believe one of the things this sign tells us, and that's the beginning of the 2,520 days starts with an ascension. I believe the rapture is what starts the week, not the confirming of the covenant. Now, as I said before, this is just my current theory of what is going on. Daniel 9:27 and Daniel 9:24 have to be 2 separate weeks. It's the only way I see these 3 signs still having any relevance. If you want to say that the 1-week covenant that is broken is the 1 week, you are going to have to figure out how these signs have any meaning with that theory.